I didn't realize you still had chest muscles, Brad. I have to admit, Brad, I called you frail yesterday, and I feel like you pumped just before this call. I feel like you did. I swear
dude.
to God,
I
dude.
should've.
Your fucking sternocleidomastoid muscles are just, they seem like they're bigger than I've ever seen them before.
I'm just gonna do
So
this the entire time.
I feel like you've been working out since we've last spoke. So anyways,
I had to.
other than Chester, we got James Carmona on the podcast today. Thank you so much, James, for joining. We would love to talk to you about your first impressions of Ninth now that everyone has the book. You know, rumors and speculation of what's happening through some of our playtesting friends is gone. We have the physical copies, and we would love to get your perspective. So, I mean, to start off with, we kind of are asking everybody, what are you most excited about right now for Ninth after it got released? What's really getting you going about it? Let's start off with the positives.
The positives. I mean, it does let you kind of play with some of the back catalog you might have had saved up from the prior editions. I've got tons of Terminators sitting on shelves that are looking pretty good right now. So that's kind of cool. So, I mean, playing something different than what you've been playing for, however many years is always a good thing. So the variety is going to be nice. It is the spice of life. And so when we move forward in the edition, it's going to be cool to kind of see how things develop from like the initial thoughts now that we'll probably be discussing a little bit later. So I think it's cool. I like seeing a trend of change throughout the edition. I think it's a good thing. A lot of people kind of get pissed off that have to constantly be tuning their list or changing altogether. I enjoy that part. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to.
Couldn't agree more, man. I actually love the constantly having to tune my army up. I hate when we get into that rut, that when you get that meta shift where it's just nothing happens for a while and it's just the same. I love being always, adapting. So I'm 100% on board with that, brother.
Yeah. Brad, honestly, man, you really need to stop flexing right now, okay?
I'm not trying to.
So good, dude. I
see,
love
I
it.
see
Call him out. Call him out on it.
Hold on, I'm putting up my
No,
Jacob
James, he did it on purpose, bro. I've been calling him soft and weak for weeks.
He's trying.
And literally,
I'm gonna move so
Brad,
slow so nothing happens.
hey, Brad, take the syringes off that back table there. I mean, it's on camera just a little bit. Just move it to the side. Just so we don't get it in camera.
I mean,
we don't
do
want
have an auto injector sitting here.
We don't want that kind of sponsorship. No, I totally agree with you, James. I'm loving it as an orc player. I'm making orc lists that if people look at them, they're like, "What's going on?" As a person who's still speculating on the new Necrons book, I'm making Necron units that I'm hoping are good, and I have them on the back shelf. And I haven't played Necrons as an army forever, so I'm really excited to just even play them. And I'm definitely looking at Khorne. I'm looking at how to use some Khorne Terminators, some fun lists, some lists I can take to a local 3-rounder and maybe get away with that win. Just because I got a list that no one was really anticipating. Looking at skull cannons shooting, looking at all kinds of different monster mashes, multiple bloodthirsters, just some fun stuff that I haven't played with in a long time. So I totally agree with that.
It's just fun though, man. I think that there's legit
Well, I mean, there's legit, Brad, but you know what I'm talking about. I think there's definitely an upper echelon.
But going from there, I think a lot of times when you get into those fun mindsets, you know what I mean? Like we were talking the last time you jumped on with us, you know what I mean? A lot of those, things you were just looking at as different, the fun, I'm looking for whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, this is, a lot of this is real competitive. It might have a new niche. Those fast moving units you were talking about before, I think are twice as valuable as before when you were talking about how you were putting, raptors and things up right in people's faces. I mean, if you and I are playing and you push up and basically shut me down for an entire turn of my move phase, that might just be the game right there. You know what I mean? If you completely shut me down, I literally might not be able to come back from that.
Right.
So
in Ninth, we've kind of seen that, at least from what I've heard and what I've seen on the table so far, is that if you can get a pretty decent lead round 1, round 2, you could run away with it, right? There may not be enough time in 5 turns to actually come back and then make away with the lead. So I totally agree with you. I'm thinking that things are really aggressive off the start of the game. They can get busy right away. And if they can kill something, great. If they can kill more than one thing and wrap something else, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep your opponent from advancing onto objectives in the center of the board. And you can start scoring those 15 pointers for 1 or 2 turns. It's very difficult to come back with, only 70% of an army or 65% of an army, right? You can't make the moves that you wanted to initially. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that having at least one nice fast unit, kind of like a Shining Spears or a Raptor unit or what have you, is going to be clutch for a lot of Army builds that need to kind of occupy space, both in the center and, kind of on their own side of the table. So that X factor is getting into your opponent's grill like right away. And I think that's how I'm going to try and play it.
No, it's valid.
I'm gonna give Alan's favorite question that I ask each time we've been doing this. So, the Bradchester $50 million Invitational's happening this weekend. What are you bringing to the table?
Custodes.
Custodes? What kind of Custodes though?
I think honestly, just a min-max like 3-man unit, as many as you can take of Custodes is the way to go, because they've got so many tricks, and so professional, Brad. Pro moves.
Thank you very much. Right underneath my microphone too. Loved every part about that.
What I was going to say though is I think Custodes have so many different kinds of tricks up their sleeves. They come with a lot more CP now, and we saw that they didn't really get too much of a change to their point cost per unit. I think that the kind of like the vein of durable units, being able to stay on objectives longer, having objective secured, or a rule like that really makes them just hard to move. It's going to be difficult to score against them if they end up taking the center. So that's what I would take, because you've also got deep strike options, so there's ways to get around the board. I just think overall they play very similarly to the way they played in 8th, and they have more CP to support themselves. So I think it's going to be a good. That's what I would take. That's
strong.
Cool.
I mean, I was actually just arguing that today with Swedish Robert. He's got a tournament this weekend, and he's a Custodes player, and he was hemming and hawing about it. And I go, those guys are super strong. Just bring a ton of Custodes.
Yep.
And we were basically, I was right on your alley of this seems really good, and they hit hard when you get near them. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're just they're not 10 guardsmen standing on an objective. You got to actually dig them out.
That's the thing, is you have only 3 of them. I mean, you're still 2 up armor. You have tough 5. You're 3 wounds. If you're standing in cover, I mean, that's going to take more than just some willy-nilly shooting to get it to move. I mean, you're going to have to dedicate real firepower to that. And then if you fail with a unit that should kill it, there are dice involved, then you're really having to overcommit to end up finishing them off.
Yep.
Then that's such a big thing. I think that honestly, 3-man units, as many as you can take, is going to be a good list.
Yeah, I was curious. Right. Also, we've had a lot of people that we're interviewing, like, this week and like maybe going into a little bit of next week. So just friends of ours, people that Brad and I talk to outside of, regular day life. And I know I talk to you a lot, so that's why you're here, and we value your opinion. I think the interesting part that I want to ask you though is, coming from like a member of the ITC family, being very close with those guys, what are your thoughts on the new missions? And do you think they're better than the ITC missions? Do you think they're worse? How much of an impact do you think ITC had on them, if any? I'd like to get your feeling on the missions, because we've been asking a lot of people that.
I feel like it's pretty obvious that there was a hand in the mission structure, at least from both Reese and Frankie. You've got like these secondary objectives that you pick, which was what you used to do in both ITC and Nova, right? You could pick what you needed to do to win. How do I think that they're going to end up like stacking up and everything? I really do believe that there are some missions in there that are kind of like gimmies, and there are other missions that are like going to be damn near impossible to score. So I think you'll end up seeing a lot of the secondaries rather get kind of pushed to the side whenever you're scoring. He's like, I'm never going to take that. I don't think anybody ever will. And then there will be some other ones that are just omnipresent everywhere. Everybody's going to be taking them.
Do you think that the missions are going to be changed eventually? I mean, as far as say like the ITC took them before, everybody. But do you think they're going to be massaged? Like for instance, especially with the secondaries, because right now, effectively, if you just took Kill Warlord against me, I just assume I just got 10 more points than you.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You know what I mean? So there's certain things you're not going to take, but I think that if they, even at ITC adjust them, you know what I mean, for their tournaments, and goes, yeah, everything, 90% of this is exactly as is, and do you think they'll be tweaking them? And if not, do you think they should tweak them?
I think they should, absolutely. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to just blanket statement and say no, we should never change anything. There always should be an open door to change things that don't work. But with Reese and Frankie, it's going to be kind of difficult for them to change anything, at least in the first year, in my opinion, because of their ties with Games Workshop. It would be kind of like a slap in the face if, they had a hand in helping, and then they're still going to change more. It just wouldn't be a good look. So that's just from an outside perspective. I'm like you said, I'm very close with them, but I couldn't see them having any desire to change them right off the bat. Maybe, a year in or something like that, you might see some stuff, maybe some FAQs or erratas, but nothing major.
Well, the thing is, we've got our eventually we'll have our winter chapter approved, and they said in the stream, the Twitch streams and stuff like that. I mean, they've said a lot of things, but I mean, one of the things they said was they were going to put out more missions.
Yeah.
I know there are more secondaries coming out because they're in the new books and stuff like that. Do you think by the time are we going to have enough information because of COVID though? Under your opinion, because of the fact normally, we would have played a million tournaments and we get into, the winter and they're like, oh yeah, data says we should do this. But if we don't get it, is there going to be enough data to change anything? Because you have no sample size, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think so. I do know that Reese really does love having a giant pile of empirical data somewhere. He's got a lot of that coming in through the BCP app and other measures that he has in place. So I don't think that we can expect anything major to move anytime soon. You're going to be playing straight out of the book. That's what I would, if I were a betting man, that's what I'd spend money on.
I agree on it. It's just one of those things. I was thinking about it. Any changes that even could be made, you don't really have anything to support it yet, even though you're probably right. You just don't have the numbers yet. You will have the numbers, but it's one of those things where you're like, well, no one's allowed to play. Your max tournament's what, 20 guys?
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough. It's not enough data. But I mean, if you've been in the game long enough, I mean, you guys are vets well beyond me, that's for sure. But when you see something that's like blatantly wrong, I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb. You're like, oh, well, this clearly is not play tested properly, or it's clearly miswritten, or it got messed up in translation somewhere. Like you can tell there's been like that since forever.
I got two questions real quick. So the first one I want to get to you, James, is to evaluate the primary. I know you mentioned the secondaries. I think a lot of people came on our podcast to talk about the inconsistencies with the secondaries and being possible / impossible / kind of easy, and designing a list against that. I think Ben Moley was one of the best people we talked to about, really taking those into consideration when you're building your army. I want to know your thoughts about removing kill from the primary, because we have some interesting points on that. I just want to get yours first. And the second question I have is, Brad, are those your squeaky doors in the podcast audio, or is that James's squeaky doors in the podcast? Okay,
Britt's getting ready for work.
So Brad,
because it's summer, my doors basically swell up because I'm 2 feet from the lake.
Totally fine. So you can walk those calves of yours over to a Home Depot and buy this thing called WD-40, and you just spray it in the hinges of the door, and it doesn't make those ridiculous noises anymore.
And then you can also put them in your joints because getting old. Moreover, if it's like a top table, everybody's going to be able to identify what's what, because you're going to have it, right there in bold, how each individual terrain piece works, right? I think that if you identify that early on, then no one can really complain anyways, but it will create a different game, right? Because if somebody else plays it differently in the town over, you're going to have to adjust for that.
So
right?
So I think we're all in agreement that obscuring terrain, we really need to identify kind of, what is the terrain that is obscuring, and then what are the exact obscuring rules? Because I do agree, like if you have those L-shaped ruins which have a big border of nothing around it, and you're happen to be in the border, which is where you need to be to actually leverage the terrain that's blocking line of sight, you can't then all of a sudden be being shot, because that's the whole point of being there. To use the L.
That's the thing. Well, at first I didn't even know, because over at Sniggs' house where I playtest most of my games, he has GW ruins and stuff like that. So we don't have the bases on it with it, so it didn't come up. But then all of a sudden, I'm talking to more and more people, and they're like, no, we have a hard time hiding behind obscuring, because you have to hide behind the area, the big box. And I'm like, oh, how are you guys playing this? They're like, well, by Raw, if I touch it, I can now be seen. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. I can't argue with it, but it still doesn't make any sense. So.
Yeah, so I think going to the next topic, James, do you think that there was any missed opportunities with the launch of Ninth? Things that you think that they could have done differently, better, different ways? It could be anything. It could be whatever you'd like to talk about. It doesn't have to be necessarily the rules. It could be even the way they released the product and released the rumors and all that stuff. However you'd like to discuss an opportunity that they could have done better.
I mean, GW is kind of showing that they're new to the game when it comes to the way that they disseminate information to try and get people hyped, right? That's one of the biggest flaws.
They definitely are new to that game. Yeah, they've
when
historically been a very secretive organization where they would just launch like, that week of. They thought that was cool. That's not cool. No one likes that.
Right, and so you have this drip effect of rules going in, right? And what they didn't tell GW is that drips in that frequency over time becomes water torture. You don't want to fucking hear it anymore. You're upset because you're only getting part of the story, and you only have what rules as reference. So that can end up making you feel like you're being shafted when it's really not that important when the game comes around. What they need to avoid is having that kind of information inflame everybody and get them all pissed off, because then you have all of the people who are most enamored with your product start talking shit about you, and it scares people off, right? Right now, everybody's got a voice, right? If you're on social media, then you're going to be yapping one way or the other about what you like, what you dislike. So I think that they need to get out of their own way.
Yep.
And just start hiring people that know what they're doing with that kind of stuff. If anything, they're
not really hiring very many people, right? All of these playtesters, no offense, Brad, all these playtesters get, in my opinion, a significant ego with being involved with the organization, but then 100%. Get nothing. It's like slave labor. They get a couple models here and there and a little bit of rules.
Actually, because we get untested. I don't get the final rule, so it's actually, I feel harder a lot of times when I'm doing it, because I get the beginning rule, and then I don't get the final rule until you get the final rule. I don't get the final, but the thing is that I thought it was terrible for the release on this is because we got a bunch of half rules. So people are, calling and bitching. You're like, and what am I supposed to do? I'm NDA'd. I can't go. That's not they basically only told you half of a rule. You're like, why would you even say that if you're not going to give more, or just do the models or do whatever? Exactly, you were saying, just focus on your line.
Yeah,
I think when they put out like the Primaris Chaplain video, that thing was badass.
It was awesome.
Like a little 40-second of like hardcore. Like, why isn't that, instead of me going, hey guys, assault, you're gonna need to make the charge with your guys, and there's some other rules too, but I'm not gonna tell you. Yeah. So you can just bitch about it forever.
Yeah. Good examples for us, James, just to give you some background. So like what we've been talking about on the cast so far is like we've been definitely been very vocal about all the positive things, but then we have the ability to then talk about the negative things. Like some positive stuff is these books are amazing. These small little books with the rules and the missions and the little binder that goes across it and everything. Like even the binding, everything. Like the attention to detail on the Indominus box in general is amazing. The price point is amazing. The leaked video of the Sisters of Battle with the Necron with the Marine, amazing. Everything. The way they did all of it was awesome. But then the app. They totally screwed up the app. The app is horrible. The app is a disaster compared to the Age of Sigmar app. It's ridiculous. I mean, the app is no codexes. We don't have a Space Marine book anytime soon. We don't have a Necron book anytime soon. We have no idea when they're coming out. Those should have been released right away, or they should at least be in the app or something like that. I think those are huge misses, from a release standpoint. And then from a rules standpoint, some of the stuff I've been talking about is I just would have liked to see probably a little bit more variety in some of the mission scoring rules, but I think Ben Moley kind of talked me off a ledge yesterday with some of that stuff that I was talking about, which happens. I get some high hopes, and then I get brought down to reality every once in a while, which is nice.
I have to admit, man, the app is, in my opinion, so embarrassing to that company that it's going to take a long time to come back from that. Yeah, that was full on amateur at best. It looks like they rushed it. If I had to take a stab in the dark as to why that happened, it was likely because they were working on something and they got a hard deadline put in front of them and said, hey, you need to put this out by this day, and it wasn't ready. And that's why when you open your app and you click on the resource, it takes you to a Google Doc.
Yeah, they should have held off. They should have held off on launching that. They should not have launched that at all. I mean, the whole structure is not even the right way. I think it's going to only hurt them, right? It's going to hurt adoption on the release, and it's going to hurt adoption moving forward, which is going to hurt subscriptions, which is going to cause them to not.
A lot on that, and it's the same thing, man. It feels like no one ever wants to feel, and this is video game terminology, but I use it all the time. No one wants to feel like they're part of the beta test when you're buying a final product.
Yeah, dude, right on the money. Yep. It is what it is, though,
some
people are paying to be a part of that beta test right now. There's people who purchased the subscription.
I already did.
Yeah.
I want the app so bad. I've been complaining. I wanted to support it because I've been same with you. I've been asking for an app forever because there's nothing more that I want to do than show up to the table and literally go battle plan style of AOS and literally send you James, go here's my roster, and you don't have to ask for my book or have some weird thing where it looks like you're trying to say, but you can look through all my rules, all my units, and everything else. I've been wanting that forever. Didn't care, just wanted the app.
Yeah.
Just some squeaky
Sorry.
doors with
Britt
Brad.
Britt just literally came out of the bathroom, kicked the door open, and started hitting poses. So
It's like totally naked poses just in the background. Just slightly to the left of the camera.
Superhero style and started.
She's like, "Where are you?
She
Why?"
saw your chest, bro. She's like, "Hey, right back at you, big guy."
Yeah, she didn't understand where that chest came from. She's like, "Whoa." I mean, Alan should insult you more often.
Alan called me Fred. Well, last time, you know what happened? Somebody said that, and I just went in the middle of the night, my drunken workout.
You went in Novi Sad too. You went to the fourth floor of the hotel with me at like 2 a.m. to just do bicep curls, because Greg called you soft. I think it was pretty funny.
And I just basically was lifting weights and trying not to fall down because I was too drunk.
DMX.
Yeah, 2 DMX. I did that.
Yeah.
That was a different night. Abramovich was like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "I heard DMX playing at 4 in the morning."
It was freaking me out.
By the way, I was too drunk to turn any of the lights off. Couldn't figure out how to do it, so I was just working out. He just comes in. He just hears DMX and me in the dark. I'm like, "Fuck you guys calling me fat." I'm a fucking.
It's pretty funny
I'm gonna
actually.
mess this up.
It's pretty funny actually. So James, have you been hearing about any boogeyman lists or any lists in ninth that you think are just too strong or kind of scary? Like I'd like to get your opinion on those too, and anything else you'd like to bring up. But I'm curious if you heard any kind of boogeyman lists.
Yeah. So there is another podcast that is doing tabletop battle reports, and they have a list that's kind of been being talked about in hushed tones. It's a Death Guard list. It's got a lot of resilience. It's very, very hard to kill.
Which one is this? I've heard multiples. So which one are you talking about?
If I'm not mistaken, this is the one that has to do with the 4++ on the vehicles, and then carpetfuls of pockswalkers and some like characters sprinkled in. So apparently what ends up happening is because morale's not an issue for that army at all, it just moves up, gets hit, doesn't care. It's got a lot of OPSEC in it because of the amount of bodies. And then the vehicles, when you try and move them, it's a real pain in the ass because there's a lot of T8 stuff in the list. It's got a 4++, 5 up, feel no pain. And when you start stacking on stuff like that and you're unable to attack the character that is making that aura happen, then you have a real problem. And you can do that with Cloud of Flies.
Yep.
You can make the character untargetable. You can throw Death Shroud Terminators in there and then Cloud of Flies them. Now you've got a mechanic that just is actually kind of broken. I think it's like one of the only broken things that I'm seeing so far in the game is being able to keep characters that, for all intents and purposes in this edition, were supposed to be made more vulnerable, are now very, very difficult to get to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few Death Guard lists that I think are rolling around. So I've heard the one that you just mentioned. There's a local one here being run by one of the Chicago guys that he's basically taking those blight haulers, like 9 of them, really 9 of those with a great unclean one with a bell and a demon prince in like a death ball basically. They're all hard to kill. The bell brings them back to life. Demon Prince gives them the 4+ invo plus the ones to reroll to hit.
List is still legit there too, man. That thing's. I think the Death Guard might be the only thing that might be oppressive in the beginning of 9th edition. Everything else feels good. Like all the other lists feel super good, but playable. Super good, but playable. You know what I mean? There's a lot of lists that feel great. That's the only one that feels like, ooh, if this person like even rolls a little bit above average.
Yep.
I might do like literally. I might score. They might get a 15-5 like 2 turns in a row, and the game's just over. You know what I mean? I can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hit the same kind of like vein as most people when it comes to like the list structure. I like to kind of play my own thing. So I've been toying around with the idea of taking 40 Terminators, 9 Mutilators, a Foul Blight spawn that has the extra aura with the Fugaris Helm, and just kind of like trying to get to the center of the board, extending the aura with a strat. Now you've got a 34-inch bubble of you swing last at me if you want to come into combat, and just trying to take over the center. That's what I'm looking.
That's nasty, dude. I didn't even think about that with the extra aura and everything else with that.
Yeah, so you
go swinging.
Yeah, so I mean, think about it, because you got 27-point Terminators with Chaos Space Marines, right?
Yep.
I think honestly, if I were gonna say what the most competitive Legion to use for that list, would probably be Alpha Legion, because they'll be -1 to be hit. They have some other really cool strats, like they can move that 9-inch pregame, which is what you want to do with Terminators, to take as much real estate as you can. And then there's actually a squad of 10 Blight Lords in that list as well, so you can use that as the bully unit on either side of the table. I've been fooling around with that list, taking a couple Terminators off here and there, maybe like one less squad of Mutilators, and then throwing in that squad of Raptors that I like to have. So it just depends. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is running a bunch of Termies. It's very hard to kill them now. You make them Slanesh. You can throw Feel No Pain on them as well, and you've got some brick units in there that you are going to have a really hard time killing. So
what do you think about Slanesh in the hierarchy of the gods now that Strike First became so much stronger?
I think Emperor's Children are the best overall Legion aside from Alpha Legion right now. So because number one, the Terminators are amazing, because when they come down from Deep Strike, you can turn one of the charger dice into a 6. So you're almost guaranteed to make your charge out of Deep Strike. So they come down, shoot twice. You can use Plasma or Melta, whatever you want. So they can kill effectively 2 units when they come down and shooting. And then whatever they charge, depending on the loadout you have, they can kill up to another 2 units. So I think point efficiency for them killing stuff is amazing. If they're Feel No Pain, that's another added thing, an added bonus for your defense. So I think that worked in with the idea of, in the next turn, if somebody stays in combat with you, swing first. Amazing. That is a very, very powerful hammer unit.
I mean, I feel they just went up so big, because you technically now, if you effectively you come in and there's 2 charges, you strike first before that other charger now, as you pick. And I was looking at that, and it felt like they really jumped their stock, just stonked up like nobody's business.
Yeah, they're very good. And I think with a plasma gun and a chain fist, they're only, I think, 47 points per model. And it sounds like a lot, but I mean, Blight Lords are 47 points a model, and they're not doing anywhere near as much damage. You know what I mean? So it's about whether you want the durability or the damage output. And I say, why can't you have both? I mean, you could literally run both of those in the same list. I think a lot of Chaos lists are just going to end up starting 3 CP lower than everybody else, because we need both detachments. We need 2 at least.
I think that I've been running a lot of double detachment lists just because I want to still pick best of both worlds. So I have no issue with that. And the thing is, you were already starting that kind of stuff in the last edition. You know what I mean? So
I don't think it's just chaos. I think that's true for sisters, James. I think it's true for guard. If you want to play guard, really, I think if you want to play guard competitively, I think they need a second detachment of an ally or a second detachment of guard. A sister, same thing. I think Eldar for sure. If you're playing any Eldar, I think you're definitely multiple detachments.
It's so sad for my pointy-eared guys, because if you're not playing Harlequins, you're basically playing a small detachment of something added on to Harlequins.
Yeah,
so
correct. Yeah, I think the only factions I'd say I really stand behind one detachment is perfect would probably be Marines, Orcs, Necrons, and Tyranids. Other than those 4, and Tau, of course. Yeah, Tau as well. So I think those 5.
Actually, have you seen that, guys? I just want to give you real quick on that. The last weekend, the Tau have been tearing it up over all the small tournaments across the country with the Tauenar, because it went down a zillion points.
Yeah.
Is that a misprint though, Brad? I feel like that's a misprint.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'll start playing I've got my Space Wolves out there. I'm waiting to see if they're gonna reprint that.
They're all OPSEC. The whole Space Wolf army minus bikes are all
OPSEC. Why? Because someone didn't proof check something.
Yeah. No, I don't know. The Tauenar thing coming down made no sense to me. I don't know why that happened. I'm glad that people who bought that model have like a glory day to talk about. But
this last week here, there's been 12 wins of any locals that have happened. Have been won by Tau.
Yeah, but that's like making the great chicken 999 all of a sudden.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And then it just goes and crashes everyone.
We might, if that stays that way though, that's something that we're going to have to, LVO time comes around when we actually start a real tournament season in 2021. If that's a list, that's still just a list. It's Titanic. It can do whatever it wants. You can't just do the standard tactics right now, which is grab, just touch things, because when they fall back, they can't do anything. Well, that thing can, and it has a million shots.
Well, it's not just that. It's the fact that it can use drones for safety
For
protocols.
safety protocols, yeah. So you shoot it with a bunch of melta guns. It's like nope, nope, and nope.
Well, I mean, also considering the fact that the not Riptides, the one above them, Storm Surges, they can't use them, right? So
Exactly.
it would make sense that it shouldn't either, right?
Yes.
And
I don't know. I don't know. It seems kind of small. I think it's small enough where like you can accidentally shoot a drone instead of shooting that Taunar thing. I don't think it's that big, you know. So I think it makes sense that a drone gets shot instead. I really do. I think it's very thematic.
Maybe
very
all
good.
Taunar are actually jugglers too. So like
Did
while
you
they're
hear-
shooting
did you
everything,
hear about
they're
orcs?
just juggling.
Did you hear about
Freaking
orcs? They just released a new rule for orcs where my Stampa can now just get pass wounds off to Gretchen. You just hit the Gretchen instead. Yeah, it's pretty sick. I love it.
Right?
I love it. It's a really good rule. I'm a big fan. And you get to play those big ones. I can't tell if James is legitimately pissed off about this or like just done with talking about it. It's
Well,
one
no,
of those two.
it's not that. It's just like when see, like Brad, you were talking earlier about like, hey, you guys haven't like tried the game out yet. You know, I actually kind of feel the opposite way in some regards, because there are some things that are just so blatantly broken already that I'm like, okay, well, you guys needed to get on that. And where the
I
hell
can see that because you said we've had such a long, especially after you had everything pushed back forever. We've had plenty. Not that we, just they have had plenty of time to fix things. You know.
Yeah, Brad, you tell your whole playtest group you guys suck. How'd you let all these gaps come through the rules, man? What's wrong with you?
Well, I did. I told anybody that I know as a tester, you guys fucked up, and they're like, James, calm down. Like,
Brad's only given 10% of the rules. I heard.
I'm on the team that actually I want to be demoted. I want to go to the points team. They have way more say and stuff. I just see stuff.
I want to be demoted. I want to go to the points team, the team that should have more responsibility, by the way. The points team. That's pretty funny. How do you have the rules people not be a part of the points people? That makes no sense. They understand the rules, so they should be the ones assigning points. That's crazy. What is that, like in a vacuum?
They have a thing. It's just they want to do. They want to make sure that there's not. They look for combinations now. I mean, I have to give them one thing. Okay, they're always gonna. They're missing so much less than they used to. Let's be honest there. But they've been trying to basically be progressive on it, on the things like plus, maximum +1 -1.
Stop flexing.
I would say that they may be missing. They may or may not be missing less. I'm not sure about less or more, but what I'm saying is they're probably missing big things like the Taunar points. That's just insane. Space Wolves all being OBSEC. That's insane.
Remember the Thunder Chicken was 700.
Flash Gits going up as much as Flash Gits went up. That's insane. There's just some crazy
you want to
mess
talk
ups.
about it, say it. Go with how sad are you if you were a Dark Eldar, just a focused player, and your troops were terrible, and then they got a 3-point hike.
Yeah, what the hell is that too? That's crazy too.
You're like,
yeah,
these guys weren't taking free. Dude, you don't want Dark Eldar warrior in your army if they were just free. No. It's like,
how about Gene Stealer cult, man? Those guys are probably fucking pissed right now. I feel bad. I feel real bad about that because I'll start complaining about my stuff going up too many points. And I'm looking at the Gene Stealer cult player who's taking, literally 50 less models in his list. Like, oh, that's
Ridge Runners. The Ridge Runner player was before his time. He was before his time, damn it. He needs to shine now.
There's some stuff on it. The problem is I think that there's a lot of these changes are done so far in advance that other nerfs come down in between these documents. You know what I'm saying? Like point changes come 6 months before they actually get implemented. But in the meantime, you might get 2 or 3 hot fixes also. So then you just get something that was getting pointed a certain way, but actually doesn't even work that way anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I know you gotta run, James. I really appreciate you getting on. Any final comments, final things you're pumped about or excited about for 9th or personal life or whatever you want to share?
I'll just give you some hopes, right? This is what James's wish list is. All right, if Brad, maybe you have a little bird you can send off or something, that'd be nice. Bring back World Eaters as a codex, please.
Oh, dude, it's my first army.
Yeah, mine too. So like if that could happen with an Angron cherry on top, man, I would sell my body for that. Like, let's do this. Let's go. It's not like your body. It's not a man made of steel, but I can give you some Well,
don't get confused, James. Don't get confused. Brad's body is just literally inflated.
If I was a horse, it would literally. I would have been shot in the backyard a while ago.
If you had a needle and you just poked his body, it would just leak some weird, like chemically poisoned gas.
Rusty,
rusty gas. It would literally smell like resin, dying resin. But anyways,
give me
no.
World Eaters if you guys can, and then I'll be happy forever.
So World Eaters for 9th GW. Get on it.
I can get behind that.
Get it going, man.
Campaign platform.
We as always appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. We will catch base with you again soon. And I just say catch base instead of touch base. That's hilarious. We'll touch base with you again soon. We'll bring you on the podcast again. We'll get some reactions in like a month or two and see kind of like how your opinions have changed on things after getting a couple games in. We'd love to get you, if you go to a tournament at any time, let us know.
Yeah,
and we'll get you on the cast to let you know, to see how that went too. Yeah, we'd love to have you back on though.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We're going to sign off, and we're going to kick off the club music.
I'll share my screen.